Hour 2 Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Brian Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, live from Royal Montreal, and look who we have found here. There he is, James Duthie. JD, the man himself when it comes to big PGA Tour events. Nice of you to join us.
Two of them a
here.
year, anyway.
2 of them a year. Canadian Open and Augusta. Now you're here.
Oh, 3 of them this year. You're right.
That's right.
Yeah, this one's cool. I had not covered a Ryder Cup or President's Cup live before, so I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it should be good. And we were talking to Lawrence about the groupings going out. 2 Canadians are going to play tomorrow. Mackenzie Hughes will not, but he will play on Friday. But they really ease into this, unlike at the Ryder Cup where it's morning, afternoon, 3 days in a row. It's like a lighter schedule, Thursday, Friday, and then they really floor it on the weekend.
Yeah, they go five the first couple of days. By the way, I guess you guys were on the air, so you weren't able to see the draft.
No,
itself.
First of all, kind of cool.
It's a cool idea. I wish they did that at the Ryder Cup. But secondly, you're in fantasy leagues or golf pools. These guys were so much faster than me and my buddies. It was ludicrous, particularly the Americans. Like Furyk, so basically they alternate, right? So Weirzy puts out his first team, and then Furyk responds and says, okay, I'm putting out these 2 guys. Furyk kept saying in 1 second, these are my guys, to the point where, and I asked him this afterwards, and he denied it, but I think he just had his 4 pairings set, and they were going out in that order, and he didn't care who the international
that
side,
wouldn't surprise
which would make
me.
sense,
Yes.
right? He said, no, we had different scenarios and stuff. They right away in 2 seconds answered each time. Weirzy,
he had his guys, and he's like, we're throwing this out.
This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. Like the second one, Furyk throws out Thigala and Morikawa. And so Weirzy and his team huddle for 2.5 minutes before they throw out Adam Scott and Minwoo Lee. I find it funny. I know they each have 10 analytics guys, and they go over every single detail. But in the end, I mean, we'll never know this, but you and I could put together pairings and put them out, and who knows how they might do just as well. It's I think it's all fascinating because they spend so much time on it, and you never know exactly how the guys are going to play on that day.
Jimmy, Tiger Woods, and I think basically any other tour player would say you can't win things on Thursday, but you can certainly lose it. How important is this tomorrow? Where it's
well, it's got to be 2, and it's got to be either 3-2 one way or the other. I think if it's 3-2 Americans, that's okay. That wouldn't be great. 2.5, or 3-2 international, and they have done really well in 4-ball the last couple of President's Cup outside the States. So they've generally done better in 4-ball. But you're right. If it's 4-1 States, it's like say goodnight. Right now,
it's big time trouble, and in the excitement, the air comes out of the whole golf course.
And I think that's what everyone here is, hoping for. Look, an international victory would be so good for this event, and I think even the Americans, look, the players don't like that, but general golf fans.
Someone asked Jim Furyk that, and he went nuts.
Well, I know he did. I'm not saying anybody on the team, but I'm saying golf fans in general. Look, most Americans are cocky; they want to win everything, but it would be great for this event if the international team won. You have to say that. But you're right. For everyone here, for us, for everybody else, just go into Sunday when it's not one of those stupid, where you're not down by 7 points, and if you win 10.5, you're going to win, because that's never going to happen here, right? Make it within 2 either way or something.
Yeah, you have to be within striking distance on Sunday.
Yeah.
You have to, because these American players, they're going to get 4 points at least, if not more than that. You're probably looking at closer to a split come Sunday, especially with the talent and the individual talent. Like Scheffler and Schauffele are going out there. Cantley's great in these events.
I know, but dude, you know that doesn't translate into match play success all the time.
Not all the time.
Do you know what Scotty Scheffler's record was in the President's Cup 2 years ago?
He puts
0-4-1.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, he was on the putting green with Steve Stricker at midnight, with lights on, trying to figure out his putting stroke. So it doesn't always translate stats, rankings, whatever, success on the golf course.
2 years ago, he was also a very different player. Scheffler was not who he is right now. 2
Valid
years ago.
point.
This guy, you talk about getting paired with him, that is a shock to the system. Whoever's got to go up against that cat on Sunday.
Can you imagine being that guy's
yourself.
partner? You'd be like, you better flush this to 8 feet. I don't care where we are in the 3-wood, 8-iron. You better flush
he hits
this.
Everything pin high. Everything.
I'm really interested to see. The course stuff is fascinating to me because we're used to watching Ryder Cups where you go to Rome and they set it up, to whatever favors the international guys, accuracy off the tee or whatever it may be. And here, it's a pretty standard golf course, but they've gone strictly to analytics, and I don't know exactly the details of what they've done, but I'll give you an example. They'll look at things down to margins of shots where, okay, when the Americans miss off the tee, they're better in fairly heavy rough at getting it on the green. So we're not going to make the rough long near the fairways. But marginally, the international squad might be better when the rough is long around the greens, so we'll make the rough longer. So they take all of that into consideration in setup. Does it translate to that quarter of a shot in a match that gets you a point? I don't know, but I find the stuff nuts. If we thought analytics was big in, hockey and baseball and football, it's nuts in golf.
Well, the biggest
right
thing
now.
forever is they want to prevent the Americans from bombing it all over the golf course. They never want that because that's always what happens. Like these guys can kill it off the tee, and they don't want them doing that. They don't want them. Like, what do you think?
But it seems like the front nine. You can it's a pretty much parkland golf course, right? Where you can bomb it. It seems like all the greens are kind of narrow for the most part. Narrow at the front, wide at the back, roll front to back kind of thing. The back 6 out of the 9 holes are water. That's, Woody Austin fell into the water the last time it was here in 14. It was one of the great President's Cup moments ever. So it's a very different front to back course, but I don't think it, Scotty Scheffler called it simple, and I think people are interpreting that as this is a piece of cake. I don't think that's what he meant. I think what he meant is it's a fairly standard classic
meat and potatoes golf course,
which is fine.
Yeah.
I think when you come to President's Cup, you just want to see birdies galore and have some roars all over the golf course. I want to see Mac Hughes hitting a 60-footer on Friday when he gets out there and having the crowd go absolutely bonkers.
Absolutely. James Duthie joining us here at Royal Montreal. So it is a golf week, but it feels like hockey weather in a hockey season, isn't it? Like coming to Montreal, and we had Jeff Gorton on last hour, and Craig Berube's being asked if panic is setting in after 2 preseason losses.
I'm sorry, Jimmy. That's tough. Like that.
Okay,
it's a tough question.
There's two questions. That question was ludicrous. That's probably the worst one. But then I was talking to Furyk. Furyk got asked one yesterday, which wasn't a crazy question, but it started crazy and then took a left-hand turn. And I'm going to do it word for word for you. Jim, and I thought it was one of these news guys. Jim, seeing that this is we're in the middle of a president election race here in the United States, I want to know, who is your role model? And Furyk goes, you mean like politically? He goes, no, just anyone. Like, why did you ask? Why did you ask
What does the other thing have to do with anything?
Well, first of all, you're not in the United States. We're in Canada.
I love that.
I hate cracking up in news conferences because I'm sure I've asked dumb questions before too, but I just did like the spit out of the water 2 rows behind.
They have nothing to do with each other. I'm sure he said his dad.
Can't put up your hand if that's coming, man.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, you can't do it.
One.
I don't know if the guy just changed in mid, like decided, I better not.
Maybe
go with,
that was
I better
it.
not go with the Trump.
Well, what do you do when you're in one of those pressers? Are you like, I have 3 questions here, or you just go by feel?
I just sit there, and if I have one, I have one, and if I don't, I don't.
What's the dumbest one you've ever done? You've had a dumb one, Jimmy. I know you have.
You can't put me on the spot like that. I know Belichick at a Super Bowl stared me down once for one, and I tried so hard to think of a smart one.
That's the worst
because it's
guy.
Belichick, and I'm like, I got to do it though. It was my first Super Bowl, 2002 or whatever, and I'm like, I'm going to ask Belichick a question, and I'm going to get him to give me an answer. So I thought out some intriguing thing about the Rams defense or whatever it was, and I get up there, and he just goes, no. I'm like, okay, Bill, I'm not going to.
You can't crack those guys, man.
Slink down in my seat.
You can't crack them.
He just said no.
No. All right, Bill.
Yeah.
I'll be done.
Because that's what ends up happening, right? You're like, I'm going to formulate something where he has to answer.
Yeah. And when you're at the big ones at the Super Bowl, you do the name thing too. Like here, I just asked the question, but the Super Bowl, James Duthie, TSN in Canada, Bill.
Yeah.
You start with
you
that.
want everyone to see
Oh, yeah,
it.
you got to see that.
Yeah,
You're on
ESPN's
NFL Network.
Live, NFL Network,
That's right.
exactly. You need everyone to know, oh, this is Duthie from TSN. I heard of that guy. He's great. Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, this hockey season, it's interesting. Matt Sundin, I guess, is in Toronto. He's doing the rounds. And I hadn't realized that it was within, striking distance for Matthews to pass his goal-scoring record this year. He's 52 goals back of him.
Wow.
And Sundin said, he's like, he's going to break it. Obviously, he's going to break that record. And just the way he phrased it, where it could be this year, maybe it's next year, I had to look it up. He's 52 back. That's actually a perfect over-under number for Matthews. 52. I know he scored
Think that's
69.
low? Is that low?
I mean, I think you got to be reasonable
No,
in
it's
terms
not
of goal
low. To
scoring
score
in the
50
NHL.
in the NHL now, it's insane.
I know.
For like
but
a gambling component,
I know I'm
that's
not a
probably
good.
too low.
I'm not a good like FanDuel guy, but I'd probably say theirs is like 56.5.
It probably is somewhere higher than that. It's
Yeah.
probably 55.5. Like, because you got to be. It's the National Hockey League. It's so hard to score.
Mm-hmm.
Injuries. He's banged up right now. He's not on the ice right now. He'll be fine for opening night, but I guess. I think he would sign off on that right now. I think if you said you can have 53 in pass mats on the last game of the regular season,
I
he'd take
told
it in
you
a heartbeat.
before he would take 48 with team success.
Well, of course he would, but why not get both? How about 50?
Okay.
How about 53 with a President's Trophy?
You always got to come over the top.
Come over the
up with a
top, but I don't know
different
why
number.
40. Like I get what you're saying, and I agree with you that like maybe you scale his minutes back, and there's more balance in the lineup, and he's playing with different lineups.
You know
and
what
they,
it
they
is,
run away with
Brian?
The division.
The reason I always go to 48 is because it's something different. We've seen him score 50. We've seen him score 60. He's almost scored 70, and it's like I want to see something different.
Well, of course
and
he's
if
going to
that-
take 48 in team success. Is
You're
he
on
gonna-
radio now, pal. You're not the boss of this operation.
He's not going to choose.
I want to see something
I want 70
different.
to go out in the first round again over 48 in a cup.
How about this? Just like you said, 50 in playoff success.
53, so he passes.
Okay,
Mats, which is petty and
but I'm not going to
unnecessary.
get greedy. If it's 48 in playoff success, that's what I want.
How do you define playoff success?
A conference final, something. I'm not
Okay.
talking about winning a round. They've already done that. Winning a round is just like blah. They're supposed to do more. They've got talented enough players that can do more. And Luke Wilson said it best about his coach, Pete Carroll. We've got really good players. You're better than the other team's players. You just got to go out there and do more during these games. And they haven't done it yet. Will that change this year, Jimmy? I don't know.
Well said.
That's,
Thanks,
I
Paul.
think, very appropriate. And listen, we're splitting hairs between 48 goals, 50 goals, 53 goals.
I'll take whatever.
I'll take anything with team success, I agree. But in terms of, like, looking at individual, I wouldn't say this is an award necessarily, but TSN is revealing their top 50, right? There's a 10-pack of players that are coming out each day, and today it was 20 through 30. And what is interesting on the list, and we all take part in this voting. I'm assuming you take part in this?
Yeah, I'm trying to look up my list while you're talking right now
Okay.
because I did it in about 5 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Well, that's good. I'm sure that's what they want. They want revealed to the world.
Just wait. Hold tight, folks. We're going to get to his list very soon.
This is the guy that'll be
He
running
spent
the whole
5 minutes
operation.
on it.
And now we should really test
Yeah.
you now because you put so much time and effort.
Well,
into it.
I will look over it afterwards
Okay.
to make sure because I have had years where I've submitted
Yes.
and like the people running the show, the Mike Lanes of the world will email back and say you forgot Crosby, and I'll be like, oh yeah,
Probably want to add
put
him.
him in at 12,
Right, in 2010.
Drop everybody else down.
That
one.
was the Quizmaster specialty. He's like,
yeah.
excuse me, are you aware that this person's not on the list? I'd say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Could you please put him in? Because he did not like that.
Well,
Yeah.
but he would also want his input. He would be like, you should really consider, Brad Marchand in the top 15.
Quizmaster's language, really consider means you're changing this.
Yeah, you're changing
Yes.
this. I
It's
want it that way.
Basically mandatory.
Sorry, I defer. What was the question you were going to ask?
Well, let me make this statement. It's William Nylander is number 20 on the list. Mitch Marner is number 23. Nylander ahead of Marner in terms of a ranking, in terms of a projection on who's going to have a better season this year. Again, it's 20 to 23. It's not 1 to 50 or something. But still, I think it is a significant movement in terms of the way that people look at Willie now, the way that maybe people look at Marner. Like, does it say more about Nylander moving up, Marner moving back? Like, how do you react to that on TSN's top 50
it's
list?
a direct reflection, subconsciously perhaps among the voters, of Marner's issues in the playoffs and just a little bit of negativity surrounding him.
Jimmy,
That-
let me
that
stop you
knocks
right
him
there.
down.
Just hearing you say that Marner's issues in the playoffs, how come it's all of a sudden, and he has had issues in the playoffs, he hasn't played his best, but how come it's not Nylander's issues in the playoffs or Austin Matthews' issues in the playoffs, the whole core of them in the playoffs, and it's like it's titled Marner's issues in the playoffs?
No,
I don't think that's fair.
You're right. It's 100% unfair, but I think perception out there, Marner was the whipping boy this year sort of thing with that, right? And sometimes it's Matthews. And I just think that sort of negativity directed more to Marner and maybe so much about his contract and all of that I think it sort of leaks into the way people vote. I have no problem. I'm trying to find what I have Nylander.
This guy
32.
doesn't even have either of them on
You have
his
Willie
list.
at 32.
Marner 26, Nylander 32.
Okay, so you have them both lower than where they actually came in.
I don't suffer the Leaf bias that you guys do here on the OverDrive.
Right, you're very objective. You're an objective viewer of the whole sport.
That's right.
I think this is accurate because there's one thing in particular I would look at. Willie has scored 40 goals in 2 straight years. Mm-hmm. It's the most difficult thing to do in the sport. It's the most important thing to do in the sport. He's an elite goal scorer. He's a better scorer than Mitch Marner. He had 40 goals, 98 points. And I also believe that this guy is comfortable in the environment. He's comfortable in being a Maple Leaf. I don't know where Mitch's head is at, which I don't know how that applies to trying to make a ranking. Again, 23 is still saying this guy's going to have a phenomenal year, and I expect that he will. But Willie, like, his contract's done. It may be boosted him last year. You can make that argument, him going through the contract negotiation. But I think he's cool, calm, collected. I think I know exactly what I'm getting out of Willie. I don't know quite what I'm going to get out of Mitch this year. And Marner, his overall game probably makes a more positive impact on this team. PK1, defensive specialist, up for a Selke in the past. He's a phenomenal player. But back-to-back 40 goals by Willie, and a guy that can put up 90 points, and I think has more of a physical impact on the way the opponents face this team, I think this is appropriate. I think Willie should be slightly ahead of Mitch Marner.
I think when you project, I think it'll be the situation that the way Willie started. Was it last year when his contract year? The years all blend together.
Unbelievable.
I think it'll be
year.
the same for Marner, and I think
you think he'll have the same reaction.
His buddy Matthews will be, they want to put up a ridiculous amount for him, so he gets paid wherever it is, and I don't think the pressure of a contract year. Maybe that'll be.
I find that bizarre,
adversely.
Jimmy. Like, Mitch Marner's got have to have a good first half of the season.
No, I never said he's going to have a good half. I just said he's going to have a really good.
I've heard it before, where it's like, well, if this guy comes out on fire, he's going to get paid. It's like, this guy's been on fire ever since he stepped on the ice.
And I'm not saying
what would you need to see. You need to see it in the playoffs.
No, I'm not saying the Leafs should. If he has a great October, November like Willie does, the Leafs should ante up. I'm not saying that whatsoever. I'm just saying personally, from Mitch's standpoint, I think he'll have a great year because it's a contract year.
That's going to start with the fan base.
He's a great player.
That's the thing. In a weird way, that will sour them even more.
But the fan base is going to say, if this guy is like on fire,
blocking
in the first
shots, dropping the gloves.
Fans are going to say, you better pay this guy what Matthew, or it's going to be a weird vibe.
Well, he's not taking a penny less than $10.9 million. That's what he makes right now. He's not getting a penny less than that, whether it's in Toronto or the 31 other markets in the league. So brace for that. It's not going to be less than that. The question is how much more and where does he end up signing? Where are the Leafs comfortable with it? Is he comfortable with it? Does he really want to be here? Do they want him here? Like, there's way more uncertainties with Marner than there was with Willie and certainly Matthews a year ago.
I think you have to give credit to Brad for living in that organization, that they're not going to go, and if Mitch is on some career record pace for October and November, they're not going to go, oh my gosh, we got to sign this guy and give him whatever he wants now. Whatever their internal discussions are about what they want to do with him, I don't think it's going to be affected dramatically by Mitch.
They shouldn't.
He's an excellent player, and whether he's got 60 points in the first 3 months or whatever, I don't think it's going to affect what they're.
Didn't they do that with Willie though? Like, Willie got $11.5 million because he was unbelievable the first 3 months.
Yeah.
Like, I think they literally just did that with Willie.
The fan base, they're going to be like, well, that's what you got to do to get that. So why isn't it happening for him? I don't know. Hey, I told you, let's be positive. We can't create these scenarios that we're going to be losing our mind doing our job in 3 months.
It's not about that. It's a reality of the situation. Like, this is a storyline that's going to be hanging over this team. Like, Tavares is a totally separate one that no one's really talking about because, quite frankly, there's nothing he can do that's going to lead to them saying, here, we have to sign you right now. Like, that's not going to happen.
People
with John.
come up to me and they're like, they better resign Tavares as some kind of team-friendly deal. And you know what I say to them? I say the Tampa Bay Lightning just walked away from the 40-goal captain that's won 2 Stanley Cups. Why did they owe any? Nobody owes anybody anything
you don't
around
owe
here.
Anybody anything.
Like, the Tampa Bay Lightning said to Steven Stamkos, you're putting on a different jersey next year. And I've said it before. Sometimes a player loves a market, and that's great. But sometimes the team walks away, and it's their choice, and you have to deal with it.
Mid-season form.
Really, just a different level of confidence this year. I can see it already.
He really. Do you know what he said the other day? Tell him about what you said. about where you are right now in terms of the clothing line?
I said a dead serious. I was creeping up on triple X, okay? I'm ready for medium, and I'm dead serious.
Really? See, I'm
He's
going
What's
the,
this?
I'm going the other way. I have ladies petite with my golf shirts.
Just tell me, be honest, what size is this sweater right here?
You can look. I think it's a small.
Is
but,
it?
But I find
Small
the
is
I find
tough,
the,
man.
the
Will you
Puma
let him?
stuff
Will you let him try that on?
It might be a medium.
Is it a medium?
Yeah, it's a medium.
Can you please let him try that on?
Right now?
Please, right now, Royal Montreal. This
Do
will be one of the more monumental moments in the history of Canadian.
I will
television.
Over top of this?
No, you got it. Do you want to? Why don't you go for a walk and come back with a new tarp?
Okay.
Are you willing to give that a shot?
I will.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is monumental. This is the kind of stuff that you get awards for. You've won a lot of awards. We haven't won anything on this show. No one takes us seriously.
This is it.
This is the moment where people are going to start to take us seriously. Are you? I know that's a great looking quarter vest or quarter zip. Are you comfortable with him putting it on?
You guys make fun of my my golf shirts. I do small in golf shirts. But you know the scam that happened in the world is that there were so many people that were overweight. This is more in the United States, that people didn't like wearing like triple XL, and so they moved everything back. So today's small is a medium. Today's medium is a large.
That's a science?
No, somebody in the clothing industry told me this.
Okay, so that's factual.
That they downsized everything.
I got to be honest, it fits like a glove.
Look at this.
It fits like a glove.
This is good.
I'm going to use the term in its new form-fitting.
Wait a second.
This
We need to
fits
see a little.
like a
come
glove.
on, dude.
No,
No, it looks great.
It's a new
fits you.
terminology,
It looks great
but
all
it's
the way.
form-fitting.
How do you? I mean, it's a beautiful looking quarter zip. Are you comfortable putting that on now the rest of the week, or is this a one-day outfit for you? I mean, your budget for clothing is massive at TSN.
No, it's the Puma guys take care of me,
Oh,
so
okay,
I'll
good.
make sure I can have a bunch of these too. I know Donnie Nichols won't be happy.
No,
with me, but
we're rocking the Peter Millar here.
Yeah, this is coming off very soon.
but that looks. I tell you, bud, that looks spectacular on you, and it's like my golf shirts. So it shows off the muscles you've been doing in the gym, and
I love it,
man,
dude.
you might be 2 months from a small.
I have to retract statements. I
Take
owe
it
you
back.
a personal apology.
Take it back, 'cause
I owe
this
you
is
an
my new
apology.
size.
I definitely was doubting you. In fact, I was ridiculing you. I blatantly was making fun of you when you suggested you could fit into a medium. It looks phenomenal. on
This
you.
is a historic day here at
It
Royal
is.
Montreal.
This is great. We're gonna win We're gonna win an award. What is it? An Emmy
World
for
Juniors,
this?
like if I need a shirt,
it's a
I can
Canadian
actually
Screen
call
Award.
you now.
Okay.
It's a Canadian
World
Screen Award.
Juniors this year,
Yeah.
Ottawa. If I need a shirt, I can call you and say, "Can I borrow a shirt?"
I was giving all my hand-me-downs to my son, my skinny son, but now I'm going to give them to
They're
you.
going to
We're
the
in
O-Dog.
business. We're
Wow.
in business.
I am so jacked up for this development. We got to get you to the pro shop and just deck you
Change
out in
everything
medium gear.
and just go medium. Medium around the horn.
God, now the problem is I got to wear this sweaty thing home now.
Oh, I know. It's just going to smell like St. Hubert's. What have you been feeding on since you got to Quebec? What is that going to smell like?
Dude, you've seen what I salads. That's it. That's all I eat, man.
Okay. All right, man. Well, Duthie, I don't know what we talked about. Your list
Yeah,
is all out of
it was
whack.
a useless segment, but that made
No,
it.
it wasn't. This is
That
one of the more
made it.
memorable segments. Doogie, get this up on socials immediately. Immediately.
I'm in legit seriously. I'm proud of you. You're handsome.
There
You know
you
what?
go.
I met you at a party, like an NHLPA thing. The first time I ever met you, and I saw you today, and I said, "That's the way you look." That was like a year after you retired. You look the same now.
Thanks, pal. It's been
There it
fun.
is.
It's been a good journey.
Beautiful journey, and the payoff is a quarter zip medium.
You know what I'm
courtesy
going
of
to call
Puma.
the journey? The road to medium.
The road to medium on Crave.
That could be the book.
Start it. That's the
it,
book.
man.
The
Talk
road to
Crave.
medium.
Yes. Step aside,
Four
Montreal
parts-
Canadiens.
four-part
It's a
series.
4-part series, and that's the final segment.
That's right.
You putting on a medium on OverDrive.
Roll the damn credits.
Roll the credits. We're done here. All right, JD.
Okay.
What are you
thank
thinking,
boys.
pal? You're just kind of doing your thing in the course the rest of the week?
Yeah,
or
we're
what?
going to be here all week. Can't wait to be out tomorrow, although it's going to rain crappy. But by the afternoon, it should be good. And I love team golf. And to everybody out there saying, "Oh, this isn't the Ryder Cup. It's the President's Cup. What is this international team?" I don't care. It's still team golf. As soon as guys are dropping putts, they're going to be pumped up. The American team's going to be pumped up. It's so much different than the average PGA Tour event, like the John Deere or whatever. So get into it. It's in Canada. It's only here every 20 years. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be amazing. Yep. All right. Good seeing you, buddy. Grab
Awesome
your
to
quarter
see you
zip
guys.
on the way out.
See
Don't
you,
forget that.
Captain
bad
Med.
boy.
The road to medium.
Captain
The road to
Med.
medium continues. We're live at Royal Montreal. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, we're live at Royal Montreal. The President's Cup kicking off tomorrow. There is a buzz out here for multiple reasons. First and foremost, the golf. But secondly, the fact that the road to medium has taken on a life of its own. People back home in Toronto sending me notes saying, I can't believe this. We have reached the top of the mountain.
That's right. And
The top of the mountain.
It's a Netflix doc, and it's coming out next year. It's not the road to the President's Cup. It's the road to size medium.
Road to size medium. And Mark Immelman joining us around the table like he did at the RBC Canadian Open. You saw history, Mark. I'm sure you're very proud of yourself to catch that.
I was moved. I think you're well on the way.
Thanks for saying that. I'm sorry you had to see that, hear it, all of it. I'm really sorry you had to witness that.
What do they call it? Svelte.
Yes.
Svelte is the word.
That's precisely right.
Yeah.
A professional athlete. He played over 800 games in the NHL.
I think $1 million.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right, man. So anyway, good to see you. We saw you in Hamilton, and now we're up in Montreal. A lot of Canadian content for you. What do you make of this place? I don't know how well – are you familiar with the course? How familiar are you with the course? What do you make of it?
Bryan got in Tuesday, took a look around the course then did an in-depth walk here in Wednesday in preparation, and I think the course is tremendous. I feel like how it lays out for match play especially around the back nine, is going to be super exciting because there are a number of holes where you could see leads change hands. So
What factors into that, Mark?
well, I feel like the shape of the holes, the movement on the greens, there's water that comes into play. You have a drivable 4, the 14th hole. So there are a lot of holes where there's going to be birdies and there's likely to be the odd bogey too. And the whole premium to me around this place is that you have to put the ball in play off the tee because the targets are small. And so if you're missing just slightly, you can make bogeys really easily. And I almost get the sense on certain holes you might even win a hole with a par. So as far as match play goes, and then you've got the crowd here, I'm looking forward to seeing how the whole thing pans out.
In any sport, a lot of people will say, well, in the sport that we cover the most, hockey, in the playoffs, there's like momentum from game to game doesn't necessarily happen. In a President's Cup, do you believe they created enough momentum at Quail Hollow to kind of believe in themselves that they can do this? Do you believe that that could play into here? They can take that here and be comfortable and confident?
I do, and I'll tell you why. I feel like the whole thing with this international squad was when Captain Ernie Els for Royal Melbourne a couple of years prior to Charlotte and Quail Hollow, where he built the Shield. The internationals needed something they needed to unify behind because we're all from different countries, right?
Yeah.
So they came up with a shield. We had our team colors, or they, I should say. And in Royal Melbourne, they nearly turned the trick and won, despite a miraculous Sunday by the U.S. team. And then in Quail Hollow, really, truth be told, the whole thing changed with the Live League. Because that international squad then was looking super talented. But then Liv came along, and players like Cam Smith and a few of the other guys, they defected, for lack of a better word. They weren't eligible. And so Captain Trevor did his best with what was a pretty green squad.
Do you think they should be eligible?
Well, I'm gonna
It's a PGA event.
Yeah,
but
I'm going to leave that for calmer heads to decide on. I do know this, though. In speaking with Jay Day and speaking with Adam Scott and speaking with Mackenzie Hughes and all these guys, Minwoo Lee, they are up for it this year. They believe in it. The word is from the team room, these guys are amped and they are more unified than ever. And so I sense that if it's going to happen, you know, this victory everyone's salivating after from the rest of the world, it's going to happen here in Canada in front of what's likely to be a rabid fan base.
We were talking about Minwoo Lee yesterday. Like
Let's go on.
he could be like a real character in this, can't he?
You know, yes, you know, you guys have played sport at a super high level. Oftentimes you get that player, there's talent, and then it's like a lightning rod. And that's what Minwoo is. I mean, for the European Ryder Cup team, you've had an Ian Poulter, for argument's sakes. And then you've had a Lee Westwood and these guys, Seve Ballesteros. For the Americans, you've had players that really stood up, wanted the ball, like a Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth in the past. Minwoo Lee is that guy, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he goes over the next few days.
Mark Immelman will join us, or is joining us here at Royal Montreal President's Cup beginning tomorrow. The crowd, you can be spun two different ways because if you're on home soil and the international team, it's going to be very pro the international team. They're going to be jacked, but there's also, I'm sure, some Americans that are going to thrive in that too. They want to be kind of being rooted against. They want to feed on that. They want to silence the crowd. So, like, where do you stand on that, or how do you analyze the importance of the crowd when it comes to a tournament like this?
Well, that is a reality in every sport where you're playing a home game as an away team. And you've had situations where you quiet the home crowd with the play and you stun the momentum. So to that being said, I feel like maybe tomorrow morning, round one, if the internationals can jump out to the early advantage, they've historically been good in 4-ball matches. It's their best format. So Captain Mike Weir went there first. It could be a big thing. But the Americans could turn the tide. I do feel like, and this is where I'm thankful, that I've done RBC Canadian Opens for the last, 6, 7, 8 years. The fans here are incredible. And the fans get behind the guys. And that rink that we have at the RBC Canadian Open.
It's amazing.
Yeah, if we have that vibe going down every hole, even if the internationals are down, that's the kind of stuff where a guy like Rory McIlroy has said to me, remember COVID? There was no fans out there on the golf course. He goes, there's nothing lifting us. And it's almost like your own play. You have to lift yourself emotionally. But if the crowds, they can pick you up. And so I feel like if the internationals don't go well and the Canadian fans just do what they do, that could still lift them and help them to an advantage.
What do you expect out of the three Canadians playing in this? Pendrith,
They're
Hughes,
important, man.
Connors.
They gotta get the crowd going.
They are. Well, look, individually, I think Taylor Pendrith comes in here differently. He's had the victory on the PGA Tour. He has always been known as kind of the most athletic of the bunch. And after the victory on the PGA Tour, I feel like he's playing with a lot of confidence. Had a good playoff run, and so played his way into the Tour Championship in Atlanta. So he's got a lot of confidence. Corey Connors, to me, is kind of the X factor because he's got so much game. But if there's a fissure in the game, it's on the greens. And match play, to me, is almost
on the greens.
Putting contest. So if Corey makes putts, he could be really good. But Mackenzie Hughes, I commend Captain Mike Weir for going down the list to get him. Because if there's someone that has that kind of that grit, that sort of grittiness to go and make something happen, he's got a wonderful short game. He's up for the battle. And to have been selected by Captain Weir to play in Canada and to represent this team, I get the sense that there's a gratefulness about him. So I feel like Pendrith he's going to play well. If it's up to Corey Connors, because I know Mac Hughes will be there.
Yeah, he said that to us when we were in Hamilton, that if he is dying to be on this team. Like, we asked him, would you prefer to pick the Olympics or President's Cup? And he didn't flinch. He said President's Cup. Like, this is what I want to be a part of. Yet he's not going out tomorrow. He will be one of the two guys on the international side not playing. As for the Americans, like Scotty Scheffler comes in here, Xander Schauffele comes in here, number 1, 2 players in the world. They've been the best players in golf for the last 12 months. Scheffler, maybe even more than that. Like, would you anticipate those two guys? Like, if you're Mike Weir and company, or if you're the players going up against them, how do you handle that? Like, how do you get to that first tee and bring them down to your level, and not elevate how great they've been leading up to this event?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I would say what Captain Weir would say to them would be, look, you can't go and tackle them. You can't play defense against them. All you can do is what you can do. And the cool thing about this, and I'm not meaning to sound like an international homer, yes, I'm pulling for the team, but I'm trying to call balls and strikes here. All they can do is do what they do. And if you go out there and you play well over 18 holes of match play, it's a sprint. Anyone can beat anybody.
It's just like a $20 Nassau with your buddies,
right.
man. Like,
exactly right.
Anything could happen.
I mean, look, Captain Mike Weir famously took down Tiger Woods at this very venue a few President's Cups ago. So 18-hole match play, it's a different deal. Oftentimes you can throw the form guide out the window because over 72 holes, Scotty and Xander, they'll be around there because of the length duration of the tournament. 18-hole match play, anything's possible, and that's the message I believe he's going to send them out there with.
How do you answer that question of who had a better season, Scheffler or Schauffele?
You know what? You offer me 2 beers and I could come up with 2 different arguments to that question. I think in the end, Scotty with a stroke average, with all the victories he had, Players' Championship, Masters Champion, he was the deserving player of the year.
Hands down for me.
But Xander winning 2 major championships, that was special too. But when Scotty wins, I think it was 6 times.
Mm-hmm. And the elevated events, man. He wasn't winning like a pitch.
He was
and
winning
putt.
the Players and Bay Hill and everything.
Yeah,
Travelers.
Memorial, everything.
And you look to that too. And when he wasn't winning, the guy was inside the top 5, top 10. I mean, he had this ridiculous run of events where he was inside the top 10, which was Tiger-esque. And Xander was good too. And I feel like the answer to your question maybe comes from Xander, who had said, look, I still have a notch I want to climb. And that's that guy, that's Scotty Scheffler, who's the top of the rung. So I've got work to do. So if Xander says that, then I guess we've got to go with it too.
Mark Immelman with us. Obviously, Rory McIlroy not here. But the McIlroy conversation has taken on a life of its own. And since the last time we saw you, he had those 2 putts at Pinehurst that have changed everything. And I was looking at, where he is finished, in big events, including the RBC Canadian Open. He was top 5. Just finished second at the Irish Open. I think he was second at the Scottish Open. Just lost at the BMW over in Europe because Billy Horschel hit an eagle on a playoff hole to get him. So he's still, even at Pinehurst, he was second place. He lost to Bryson, but he also kind of threw that away. And like the conversation about McIlroy and whether or not you should look at it as top 3s, top 5s, top 10s, or is it simply biggest moments, you didn't get it done, and that's kind of more in the forefront?
I think if you asked Rory that question, he'd probably say the latter. But as you look at it, it's all a setup, and with these players, they were just one swing thought or one good week away from a lot of success. It's just like sport, and all he needs is something to go his way. And there's a sense to me right now of inevitability with Rory. You speak of the Canadian Open. I had his group in the final round. And he hit some shots there coming down the stretch that he could have pulled it off. And that bunker shot, that fairway bunker shot in the last hole, they came to me. And I was like, ish, there's not much going on over here. He's deep in the bunker, big lip in front, uphill, 190-odd yards. And he whips this high 6-iron out there slicing to the middle of the green. And I looked at this and I said to my on-course spotter, Craig, I'm like, this guy is special. And I feel like there's only so long you can keep him down.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a victory. It's going to happen.
But it has to be a major,
yes.
though, right? That's the thing. Like it's been a long time since he won a major.
Yeah, and you know what? April is just around the corner.
Yeah.
And if there's one major he wants to get, it's got to be the Masters. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say accidentally, but he's so good he can accidentally play well there and win. So it's just a wait and see thing. The key for Rory, though, is to stay patient, because all of us, we're going to ask questions. He's going to have to answer them. He's going to ask questions of himself. But to me, if he's a stock, I'm buying right now.
Okay.
As far as the Americans, with Jim Furyk being the captain, and then they're moving on to Keegan at the Ryder Cup, that's kind of like, this is like the last one for that group of guys. Like, those group of guys might not be doing that. Like, they had a long run of captains, assistant captains. It's kind of going to be some fresh blood in there after this.
Yeah, there is. I think Keegan's going to be a fantastic captain.
How would he handle playing well and deciding whether he plays or like that would be weird?
That's the thing. Like if he's if he doesn't play himself in, but he should, any other captain would make him a captain's pick. How does he, like, shouldn't someone
has to tap him and say, we want you to play?
I would think so.
You would think.
Like
instead of him saying, I'm playing.
Exactly.
It's so much responsibility, though, to be a captain of something like that.
Well, didn't Tiger do it in Melbourne?
Yeah, but look, the President's Cup, and then to me, the Americans, both cups are big deals, and I heard your previous guest speak of cup golf. Mm-hmm. It's fantastic. But the Ryder Cup, it seems to me like I've been to both and I've called both. The Americans just seem more up for that, like continental versus U.S. battle.
Yeah.
I mean, this has been going on since the days of
Nicholas was playing in it.
So there's history there, and I feel like maybe with the Ryder Cup, he just is the captain. But the way he's playing right now, he's playing well and arguably one of the best in the team. So I'm keen to see how the whole thing plays out. I know this. He will be a tremendous captain because he just oozes passion.
Absolutely. With Mark Immelman, PGA Tour announcer and host of On the Mark Golf Podcast. I love it. The podcast world. You liking that?
I've been doing it for like 9 years.
Yeah.
I was in podcasting before I knew podcasting was a thing.
I love it.
And mine's just game improvement. People download there to get golf insights. And our guest that just dropped right now, just a few minutes ago, 5 o'clock Eastern, was Adam Scott. And here's Adam Scott, 11 time in the President's Cup, major champion, players champion, giving you the insight on how he plays the game and speaking so candidly about, I've been there and all of a sudden I'm leading. Then I just feel like I can't swing the thing and I can't hit the ball. And it was fascinating to listen to these experts and all their insights speak of doing it at the highest level and sharing some tips that people could use to improve.
He's got a pretty wild career, man, Adam Scott. Like you said, the ups and downs, the putter. Everyone looks at the putter, but the way he still hits the ball, like he crushes a golf ball
swing,
still.
Like if his putter was on point, I mean, you could obviously disagree, but at Colorado when Keegan Bradley won, I think Adam Scott hit the ball the best out of anybody there. His putter just did not work out for him.
On Sunday in particular, it didn't. He putted well the first couple of rounds.
It was like if he had his putter dialed in Colorado, like that was his tournament to win, and it just didn't cooperate.
The guy is evergreen. It's almost like, to me, he's gotten better than what he was when he was younger. It's just
that golf swing, man.
It's
And
incredible.
that driver swing is insane.
He's picked up more speed and more power. I mean, the guy's just doing it all right. The only difference now, I feel like, is the fields are just so deep. And you can play that well for a week and still get nipped at the finish line. So look, he's great. He's on the doorstep of the Hall of Fame. And I expect more out of him because he's in good shape. And most of all, he has the desire to work on it.
It's always a good sign.
I think Fax said he hit one drive in Colorado, and Fax, I think, was on the broadcast. He goes, if anybody's curious on how to hit a driver, just do what that guy just did. It was that good, man.
It's that easy. just replicate what Adam Scott
that
does.
swing when he's dialed in with a driver, I mean, it's one of the best swings of all time.
Fell straight out of heaven. I mean, if heaven created a golf swing, it's Adam Scott's.
Yep. Well, he'll be a big part of what they're doing this week. There's no question about that. Mark, it's great seeing you again. We really appreciate you doing this.
It's good to be with you guys. I was excited when I got the call, and look, it's going to be a fantastic week, and let's go
international, man.
No kidding. Let's
go
do it.
International. We're rooting for him as well. There he is, the great Mark Immelman, joining us here at Royal Montreal.
Nice.
We appreciate him coming by as always. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Darren Dreger, our TSN Hockey Insider, coming up. Little arbitration at 6:30 live from Royal Montreal. TSN Top 50 list continues to be revealed. Numbers 20 through 30 today. We'll get back into Nylander ahead of Marner. Also, JT Miller ahead of Elias Pettersson on the list, which is interesting. Miller had a better year last year.
There's recency bias involved in both of those decisions from all our panelists that made those selections.
I hear
it's impossible to get away from that. Impossible.
And that's what is challenging to an extent about doing this, because it is a projection on the upcoming season. Like, it is not how have you played in the past.
Yeah, so if a guy was great in the playoffs and finished his season where when you think of that guy's name, you're like, he's got to be higher than that.
Well, JT Miller is a really good player.
Dude, he's a flat-out stud. I'll go as far as to say he's underrated and he doesn't get enough props for what he brings to the table on a nightly basis.
I think you're right, especially considering how much attention goes to Quinn Hughes, justified, and it should. How much goes to Pettersson, again, justified, and it should. And then Demko and Rick Tocchet.
That guy's the engine, man.
He's kind of the leader on that team.
Yeah.
Like, he, especially up front, man, he takes on heavy minutes and he puts up numbers every single year.
He's intense. He can go a little bit squirrely at times, which comes with the territory, but I love watching that guy play the game.
I agree. And I think Pettersson has the ability to work his way further up that list because of what he's capable of doing. Like, he's capable of being one of the 10 best players in the game.
He had a very strange year last year. It was like the contract came up, and I think he was humming along up until then. And then he just fell asleep afterwards, where it was like, I don't know if there was an injury. There was some awkward exchanges with the media, and I do not know what that was all about. But he's almost like he just faded away.
His playoffs, he was horrible in the playoffs.
There's no other way to describe it. That's not even an opinion. That's just factual.
Yes, it is. I mean, that is, he just simply did not perform well.
Yeah, and you talk about a series going down to Game 7 with the Edmonton Oilers, him being an X factor.
That's exactly what you need.
Exactly,
like
and it was so disappointing just to see that. But there's always next season. There's always a chance to respond.
That's the beauty of it, and the deal's done. You know, it's signed. It's kind of like Nylander in Toronto. Like, it's over, man. You're locked in 8 years. Like, you better keep going, man. That better be the end of it. Like, any issues you had, you better be over them, and it better be ready to rock here.
Life can be miserable in a Canadian market if you're not performing. It can get really miserable if you want to attach an $11.5 million association to it, and then your life can be miserable if you're not.
Changes everything.
Everything.
When your cap hit is that high, then it just becomes all you can do is basically match that number,
Dude.
like on an individual level.
Well, all you can do as the player is you just have to do what you do that got you that contract. It's got to be nothing different.
Right.
It's just you got to be Elias Pettersson, the game breaker, the skilled player that can go out there on a nightly basis, and maybe one night it's McDavid and maybe the other night it's you. It can't be McDavid all the time. You got to go out there and have some nights where it's about Pettersson.
Absolutely. You're one of the 10, 12 highest paid players in the game.
Yes.
And that is the expectation. That's why you got the deal, and you're getting paid for future success, not because of what you've done in the past. And you're still in your prime. So more on that with Dregs coming up in the next hour. Arbitration coming up. Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel still to come on the President's Cup. We got a couple of individual plays and a team prop that we'll be playing in terms of our Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel. That's coming up in hour 3. Live from Royal Montreal. The President's Cup kicking off tomorrow. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.